Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of On That Note podcast. This is episode 4.2, and we're hitting you with the next noteworthy segment. Following, we have returned to our theme of classic albums released in 1994. But before we get into that, for your remembrance, and some of you maybe for the first time, I'm Brandon.
And I am Calvin. Let's get into it.
Oh.
So, the clue from last episode was that this was one of two albums that we just had to do.
Absolutely.
You know, of the albums that were released in 1994. And it's my understanding that you really, 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 really love this album.
I do.
Yeah.
Like, it's... Anybody that knows me should know that I consider this to be, like, R&B, soul, music overall, honestly. Like, this is, like, top of, like, my list. Like, maybe not number one, but it's in that top 5, top 10 complete projects for me, because I think that this album was one where it was intentionally created, intentionally sequenced, like all those things.
Yeah.
So just a really shining example of what I think a project should be.
Okay. You want to tell them what we're talking about?
Yes. I'm bursting at the seams. We're talking about none other than My Life by Mary J. Blige. Her second album came out in November of 94, and really just, it took her from the success of What's the 411 and really like placed her into a different stratosphere. Yeah. You know, you think about the sophomore jinx and how important that second album is, right? Like, you hit big, you went triple platinum the first album. Yeah. You know, you had like these charting singles and you're becoming more of a household name, but what is that second album gonna really do? And for Mary, especially given some of the other things that were going on in her life at the time, one, I can't think of a more apt title. Right. But then like the album is very autobiographical in that way, where it's like, it's not like some other artists where like, you know that they're going through these things like in the background, but like the music isn't necessarily reflecting that.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean?
So just kind of like avoiding what's going on in their lives. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was kind of like I felt like, or I still feel like, I was reading her diary or her journal at the time. Yeah. Like, as I listened to this album.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it in kind of that same vein, it has a sound that is very much Mary J. Blige, which, I mean, I think we know now, but even then in establishing her sound, and just, like, with her being from the Bronx and her being, like, this kind of... So, like, being signed to Bad Boy, but not... Like, Faith Evans, or was she not signed to Bad Boy?
So, Mary was signed to Uptown.
Yeah.
But Diddy... This was, like, around the time where he's, like, transitioning from Uptown to like Bad Boy, or like having Bad Boy really kind of get up and running. Yeah. So I want to say that because he produced or executive produced the album, I want to say, and I think he did it under the banner of Bad Boy, like his contribution. Yeah. But yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I think maybe to that point, you know, if you think about other women that were attached to the Bad Boy name, you know, like Faith Evans, she was not, you know, and I don't mean that in a good or a bad way, but it's just like she was a completely different artist, and her sound was different, and you couldn't have taken the sound of this, and I mean, I don't know, maybe some of the life situations were synonymous, but you couldn't have taken the sound of this album and given that to Faith. You know, like, this sounds very much like Mary, you know?
So that's the interesting part about it, because Mary and Faith are both songwriters too, and I think that that's what helps to differentiate how they convey their music to us. But at the time, there was a lot of like they were in each other's orbits heavily. You know, Faith co-wrote and sang backup on some of the songs on this project. Just like on Faith's debut, you know, Mary is even interesting because they pulled that version of the song, but on so just like, well, we'll get into some of this, but they both did covers of Rolls Royce songs on Mary on My Life, you know, did a cover, and then Faith on her debut album did a cover of a Rolls Royce song, Love Don't Live Here Anymore. And that was originally a duet with her and Mary, but they ended up pulling that version because they both had their friction, you know, at the time. So it's just kind of interesting, though, how you're seeing with that era of music, you're seeing like people that have gone on to now looking back 25 years, we can say like these people blew up in their own right, but you know, at the time, there's a lot of like insecurity about like, okay, like who's gonna blow, who's gonna be a name, who's gonna, so, and it's like, but y'all can't escape each other because y'all working with a lot of the same people, so, so that's interesting.
So, we're just gonna kind of break down generally kind of what the album did as far as its success, talk about the sound a little bit, talk about, you know, as we usually do, some of the tracks that stand out for us. And maybe some other things. But yeah, I mean, go ahead, kick it off. This is very much this is like a B episode, I feel like, so I'm just gonna defer in a lot of ways because so this was actually my first time listening to this album all the way through.
Oh, really?
And of course there were lots of songs that I knew and know and familiar with, but there were some that I didn't. And they're even just listening from start to finish, you know, I had to. Well, I mean, I guess I didn't have to, but in feeling like I should be prepared for the episode, I listened to it twice all the way through, you know, just to make sure that I really got a good feel for the album and like the sequencing and all of that.
For sure.
And it's good. It is. I mean, not that I had any doubt, but it's just I can understand why this is an album that really stands out for you, because, like you said, you know, 25 years. In the future, you know, you can think about who Mary is now. But to have her be just so strong in her performances at such an early on stage explains why she's still around to this day.
Absolutely. And I mean, you wouldn't have the moniker the Queen of Hip Hop Soul without My Life. You know, what's the 411 in and of itself won't gonna do it. You know, great album, but when you think about, you know, someone again coming out, being hot, having success, it's like, again, that follow-up, that what comes next, that's what solidifies them, and that's really what you have in this album. So you see in even the commercial reception of the album, it comes out, debuts at number 7, but
debuts at number 9, but then gets to number 7.
Thank you. That's on the 200, so the album chart. But on the R&B chart, she debuts at number 1, of course, because we love our Mary. And you know, she sells 200,000 copies, you know, the first week, and we're talking about 1994, 200,000 copies. Which is a lot different, you know, from nowadays. And just even thinking about that era of coming out with music, like, there's a reason why Mary debuted at number 7 on the Billboard 200, because there's so much music that fall 1994 corridor. I will get there. But there's just a lot of music that's coming out. A lot of big artists are putting out those either debut or sophomore projects. And so it's a lot, that's a lot of competition. But Mary definitely, I think, released an album that not only has stood the test of time, but has undoubtedly influenced a number of other projects and artists since. And so To delve into some more just about about the album, you know, in terms of who was in the studio cooking with Mary,
Right, yeah.
you had Diddy, of
Yes.
course, who back then we would still call him Puffy, and he was the executive producer. Then you had, you know, Chucky Thompson and I think Prince Alexander. There's a couple of people that, and even Mr. Dalvin. And so you're seeing a couple of people that not only were, you know, had worked with her before or maybe hadn't, but they were really a part of cementing this era of music because they were, you know, these were people that were working on Jodeci's album. These were people that were working on, you know, Faith, you know, first solo album to come, and you know, just a lot of the R&B music. So it was
and
kind of
the hip hop music,
right. And so it's just a very it's a very unique time in music because you definitely have the architects of a sound and of a musical movement, if you will, that really led to a proliferation of Black R&B, soul, and hip hop artists being on the charts, on the radio, on your TV, and a lot of those artists just being so beloved to this day.
Yeah, I think it's so easy I guess for some people to dismiss Sean Combs as kind of like the nigga that was like Diddy bopping in the back of the music videos and just kind of like, why are you here?
Right.
But people don't really realize how influential he was in just like the creation of this sound, the creation of the Bad Boy label, and like the collection, the conglomerate of acts that he was able to amass. Like a lot of that was his doing, you know, and of course he had help, you know, and give credit where credit is due. But it's just, there's just so much, I think, that Puffy, Diddy, Papa Diddy Pop.
They call him
that he was like actually in the trenches, like doing, you know, like to have produced this sound, like the sound of this album, is very, very unique and like very much hip hop soul. That's exactly what it is.
For sure.
And coming down to like the music that he chose to sample and like even the original songs, it's just like all of it is just I don't know. I mean, shout out to him.
Right. I mean, Diddy is definitely someone that is present and accounted for. Like for a lot of our favorite musical moments of the last 20, almost 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, if not directly involved, then tangentially in some way. And so it's really dope to look at this album and think about just how it launched not only Mary further into the stratosphere, but him as well. Yeah. And so in the years since My Life has come out, we've seen that a number of publications have chosen to really kind of like acknowledge it for the work that it is. Okay. And has placed it on a number of, you know, greatest of all times lists, things like that. Right, yeah. So I don't know if we want to talk about a couple of those.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
So we see here that we'll start with Vibes, since that's for us Vibes situation. But Vibe magazine named you know, My Life as one of the 100 essential albums of the 20th century in 99, and then in 2007 they named it as one of the 150 albums that defined the Vibe era, so 92 to 07. So it's a good moment.
Are they kind of, what is that, I guess, like the moment that Vibe was like popping the most?
Yeah,
because it's kind of like what Vibe would come to be.
Because I want to say that Vibe debuted in 91 or 92. Okay. So I think like probably that like run, that initial run of Vibe, because this Vibe is still in print today, right?
I can't tell you one way or the other.
You know, we'll have to look that up. Yeah. I used to be a faithful Vibe reader, but to come to think of it, I haven't really seen Vibe for a little
and
bit.
I'm trying to think the last time I read like maybe an online article that was of that.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Like they might. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised in this era. You know what I mean? I think they at least still have an online presence. They might still be printing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go with that.
Okay.
Optimism.
Yeah.
But even in publications like Rolling Stone,
yes.
like it's appeared on quite a few of their lists.
Mm-hmm.
So on the 50 essential female artists, female albums, ranked number 17. 100 greatest albums of the 90s, ranked 63. Out of the 500 greatest albums of all time, it was 279.
Yeah.
I think it could have been higher than that. But of all time,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
I can't even fathom that. Like,
right.
That's just so much music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then even Time Magazine listed Time and Entertainment Weekly both, named it to their top 100 albums, either for, a period of time or for just, of all time. So, again, just an awesome body of work.
Yes.
With the critical acclaim and the commercial success.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that probably leads us into getting to the music.
Right. Yeah,
so,
let's do it.
I know that we were talking just about, a couple of our favorite songs. So, we like to share those with everybody. So, do you want to kind of go back and forth?
Yeah, sure. We can do that. So, I mean, I guess I will say, just kind of speaking to the sound of the album, right? So it's like the as a whole, the album, and we've said, is very soulful with a very nice blend of hip hop. So like even the interlude at the very beginning is kind of like this. Yeah, exactly. But like this introduction into the world that we are in. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's like, Diddy calling her up, you know what I'm saying? Be at the studio, whatever. But just from that point, there's blends of soul contributions from the past and things that also still sound very much like 90s R&B, but then also some hip hop influence and all of that, and it just blends together very well in a way that is almost timeless. I think because of the very classic songs used in another classic time, which is 90s R&B. Even today, you look back at this album and it's just like this still works. It still translates.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I had some songs, I think, that I wanted to talk about, just kind of go through. And some of them are sample songs. Some of them are like original songs. But, I mean, we can just kind of go through the ones that kind of stick out to us.
Right.
So, a song that I really like, I guess I'll start with the one highest up in the list.
Okay.
Is Mary Jane. That's track 2, right? So it's the first song on the album. So love that song. One, because like it's hard to do, sometimes it can be hard to do a sample really well. Yeah. But to have 2 samples, to have like a sample and like an interpolation of something else and make all of that work. It just fit in a way that just works for lack of a better word. So you have this interpolation of All Night Long by, what is that, the Mary Jane Girls, right? Obviously. And then you have Close the Door, which is honestly one of my favorite songs by Teddy Pendergrass. And
I would even almost wonder, because that beat had to also come from like the Rick James song Mary Jane, right?
Yeah. I mean, there had to be some influence there too, obviously. So even with that, So this is, I'm gonna ask a stupid question.
Don't.
But
no
so, what does the J in Mary J. Blige stand for?
I'm pretty sure it's J.
Okay.
I think.
Well, I like that.
Mary J.
Blige. Good. That works. And that works very, very well, because even the reason why I made kind of like the comparison between her and Faith is like, she's a little, I mean, all of it is pretty edgy to a certain extent, but she's like got a little bit more of that edge than I think maybe Faith had, which I think translates well in her music and is relatable in a lot of ways.
For sure.
Like, I think we know a lot of girls like Mary, you know? But yeah, so that's the first one that I really, really like. Another song that I really like is I'm the Only Woman. So that one is it's a sample of Curtis Mayfield, Give Me Your Love. And what stood out for me, and I'm dating myself in my young age, was the fact that I had heard that sample before. And I heard that sample in the Wale song with Jeremiah and Rick Ross, That Way. That I apologize. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so when I heard it, I immediately thought of that. And, well, I mean, it's like I thought of Curtis Mayfield and I thought of that. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So it's just like, that was kind of the most immediate reminder, which made me like the song, but then also, what she's singing about in the song, like you said, it's like a diary entry.
Oh, almost, for sure.
You know? It's like you're hearing her sing about these things and talk about these things that you very much feel like she's living through and actually talking about. So, yeah. Okay. I've given a couple. I don't know if you want to give a couple.
Sure.
Do a couple more.
It's interesting, though, to think about your introduction to that sample, to that beat, as being like the Wale and Jeremiah song, as opposed to being familiar with the Mary, you know what I mean? Like, because
like which one I knew first. Yeah.
It's interesting how, like, the frame of reference, like, for music, how it can be different. So, you know, a conversation that Calvin and I were having as we were, you know, preparing for this episode was, how do we want to, like, talk through our, you know, favorites and our, you know, our favorite songs on this album, and, you know, to the point that was just kind of made as he talked through some of his, like, favorites. The use of sampling on this album is, like, really heavily.
Yes.
And so a lot of the songs are sampled and have these rich, soulful samples to them, but also combined to make these, like, hard hip hop beats. Right. So it's like it's definitely an interesting juxtaposition. But the sounds and the feels all complement Mary J. Blige's voice and her narrative very, very well.
Yeah, right, yes.
You know what I mean? And so to that end, the first song I want to talk about is the title track, My Life, which is, I just think, amazing. It's such a song that's just, like, allows you to be so contemplative of your own life as you're listening to her talk about hers. And just all of the, like, the darkness and the confusion and the, you know, the things swirling around that, you know, a lot of us don't ever really like to have to give voice to or, you know, refuse to do. But just to hear her confront a lot of her own issues on the title track on this album, it's just it's a refreshing but also a, like, emotional sort of endeavor.
Yes.
And to think about that sample of Everybody Loves the Sunshine from Roy Ayers, you know, the song, and I would need to sit with the lyrics of the Roy Ayers song some more. I really like that song, the original as well. But I would endeavor to think that is about life too, but it doesn't cause the same sort of, like, thinking pattern that, you know, Mary's My Life causes. Yeah. I
think it's more of, like, the sunny side.
Yeah, it's just like...
For lack of a better word. Which is interesting. Because with this track, it's like, yes, it is very contemplative, and it is very much, like, it takes you to some places. but it also gives you that piece of hope, right? Where it's just like, if you do these things, you know, you'll have peace of mind. You know, if you do these things, all you need is yourself. All you need is God. All you need is your faith. So yeah, and I think maybe that was intentional, right?
Oh, for sure. And even when you like hear Mary talk about the My Life album subsequently, years down the road, you know, she talks about just how much like, I'm trying to remember if this was, I think this was on the My Life 2, back in 2011 when she put that out. Like on the intro, she's like, you know, we were hurting on that album, like, you know, we were hurting and trying to process through it. And you think about, you know, Mary's 22, 23 while recording this album. Puffy is like in his early to mid 20s. So these are like young people, you know, not too different from ourselves that we're trying to like navigate these varying and increasingly levels of success and being high profile, and also having to navigate, you know, maybe demons or things from their past that don't necessarily get resolved just because you become successful, but it kind of gets exacerbated. So to see her navigate that, I think it is the quintessential album title track to me, because I was just debating somebody about a title track for an album the other day, and I can't remember what it was, but if you're gonna do a title track, this is like encompassing of what the album is, right? Whereas sometimes title tracks just aren't. Exactly. You know what I mean? So My Life was my first one. Then a second song that I really, really love is You Bring Me Joy, which is interesting because you really do go on an emotional roller coaster with this album. To the point where it's like, okay, we're up, and it's very indicative and reflective of life, because, you know, it happens, you have your heights and you have your lows, but coincidentally, You Bring Me Joy comes right after Mary Jane All Night Long. And so, you know, you see in the beginning of the set that Mary is trying to communicate like some different moods. And with that song, this was my intro music for my last birthday party that I did, and I really wanted that song because it's that recognizable like Barry White sample, and that doom 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 doom, like doom doom doom, like, you know, it makes you feel a way, you get hype, you get excited, and you know, throughout the song she's just talking about you know, having somebody in her life, and just really somebody that's really just adding positively to her life. And so I don't know, it's a song that literally brings me joy, like whenever I hear it.
Just even seeing you talk about it, you just like light up when you talk about it, and I love that music is able to do that.
For sure.
And you're right. I mean, I think the music is very upbeat, you know, and I think that was intentional. It's like you want to get up and enjoy yourself and have a good time. So
I don't know what I would do without you in my life. Come on.
So I have a couple more songs that I wanted to talk about. And so these are actually some like original songs. So like we have the songs that are like samples and all that other stuff. And there were a select few, like we were trying to go through and like parse out like some for you and some for me, but there aren't very many to go around as far as like originally composed songs.
Right.
Which I think sometimes I find myself like being overly sampled, I don't know, albums or things like that, but it just, I don't know, it works for this album in a way that I think maybe it doesn't work for some others. But the originals are just as good, you know?
For sure.
And so a couple that stand out for me is You Gotta Believe, and that, you know, the faith and hope in love, and like putting your faith and hope, and or asking someone to put that in you, and or put that faith and trust in you, and in love and in life is just, you know, I mean, it's something that's vulnerable, it's something that's relatable, it's something that I think we all at some point or another have either asked someone to do or have been asked to do, you know, just like, trust me, you know, like, don't. But in the song, you know, it's nice to think about. It's nice to want to believe, you know. But yeah, so that's one that I really like.
So before you jump out of that one, I think that like that is that and what you said kind of like provides a good segue into talking about the relationship that, or we'll say one of the defining relationships that really helped Mary to go inside of herself and make this album, and that is her relationship with Jodeci's frontman Casey. Mary, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like they, so you think about, you know, these two young people that, you know, are growing as, you know, artists and have a lot of other, you know, things that are personally, individually, that damaging coping behaviors.
They weren't trust.
But you know, like the drug abuse, the alcoholism, the fame, all of it. You know,
it's a thing. It's a trope.
It is, and now they're in a relationship with each other. And so, what does that look like? And I think that, you know, a lot of the themes, you know, in that song, but just I don't know, you know, it's just a lot of call outs to what it's like to be in a relationship that is driven by a lot of intense you know, factors, and I don't know, it led to a great musical moment, but I'm just imagining, you know, what is You Gotta Believe in Me? What does that look like in that relationship?
Within the context of Mary and Casey. Something else that I really enjoy about this track is the background vocals, because so Casey is on the track, he's doing background vocals, I think Faith is doing background vocals also, and just the layering of that, it sounds different than really any other track on the song, because you get to hear more than just Mary, and it works, you know, like it seems almost like choral, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like, you know, like a, I don't know, like group of voices working together to produce a great track, which I really enjoy. The other song that I was going to point out was Be With You. This is like, I remember when we were talking about Boyz II Men, when we were talking about Aaliyah, we were talking about how the 90s just had this New Jack Swing style to it. And then beyond that, like just kind of, so like, and I mean, it all tracks, right? Because like black music is black music is black music, but like within this album, you get New Jack Swing, you also just get regular swing. There are lots of songs that just swing throughout the song, and she's just very bluesy and it's very soulful, and it's just, there's so many like tropes of black music that are in this album, you know, whether it's the sampling or whether it's the way that she sounds, or
I was going to say the pain,
like, pain, or the covers. It's just all of it is just very
black,
and
that might be one of the reasons why I really love this album so much,
because it's so black.
I mean, but even to your point that you were making about the, you know, how many samples are, you know, throughout this album, and you know, the, you know, is original or, you know, using sample music. But what's interesting here is sometimes in trying to talk about pain and talking about what you're going through, the easiest way to access your pain is to bring it out or see it in someone else. And so if you're thinking about what the use of a lot of the sampling did, is it helped to draw out her pain by you know, taking this music from others that may have exhibited similar themes or emotions or things like that, but it helped to bear it out, so that, you know, we're not sitting here trying to, okay, from scratch, Mary, tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you can easily see where it's like, okay, we're going to pull this Roy Ayers sample.
Yeah.
Hear this beat. What does it make you think of?
Yeah.
Or what do you want to say?
Yeah.
Like, I definitely think it was a lot of listening to records and like being able to make those connections to what she was experiencing.
And it's so funny because that process never stops, right? Because like she does that and she uses that to make the music, and then we use her music to evoke our own emotions and feelings, and so it's just like this process of, you know, being influenced by someone who is influenced by someone who is influenced. Absolutely. Is just like a consistent cycle, but again, it just comes down to our people and our pain and what we experience as a culture,
for sure.
Which is great, and which I really, really thoroughly enjoy.
Yes.
So
as we transition to me sharing like two of my other favorite songs, something you just said is reminiscent of something that I say a lot about Mary J. Blige. When you were talking about like using her music to evoke our emotions, I say that I think Mary is one of the best singers when it comes to making you feel what she's singing about.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a song that Mary J. Blige sings on this album or any other where it's like, okay, she's singing it, but she ain't living it. Or, you know what I mean? Like, there's this, like, very visceral... It creates a visceral reaction, but because the music is so believable. Right. It has a credibility to it that not every artist or every song or every album typically has.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the performance.
Oh,
There's just something in her voice that is just very sincere.
Yes.
And kind of like, honestly, no bullshit. You know, it's kind of, because it's not like, she's not like running up and down songs.
Nope.
And very rarely, like she does it sometimes, but very rarely is she like yelling on a track or something like that. She's just kind of singing her truth, and you feel it. Like something that I love to do is like picturing someone in the studio when they're recording something like that. So like My Life, right? Like imagine like, you know, them hitting that play button and the tape starts rolling and she's just in there with those headphones and just singing, you know, like. Just I
would love to have been a flower on
exactly.
the wall.
But just hearing that truth in her voice and her music and her performance, I think is something that a lot of people try to do, but it's very hard to do naturally. And I think there's just something about Mary that just does that. You know?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so to that end, we'll end on a happy note, so I'll go to this song next.
Yeah.
So, as Calvin was saying, like, we were looking at the songs that included heavy samples as opposed to, like, some of the original tracks. But, you know, so I was able to pull out one, which is also one of my favorite songs on this album and by Mary, period. But it's I Never Want to Live Without You.
Yeah.
And... I mean, the lyrics are, I never want to live without you, baby. I want to be a lady. Love is so amazing. And it's just the way that it's sang. And this is another track that Faith co-wrote and sang back up on. And this is just really, it's another example of that. As I'm trying to... love someone else, or as I'm trying to love myself, I'm trying to also love someone else, and what are the complications that come with that? Because, you know, to think about, I never want to live without you, that's placing a lot of stock into a person in a relationship, and to a degree can be very damaging. And so what does that really look like? But knowing that most people to a certain degree have had an experience with someone, whether it's you know, romantic or platonic, or, you know, just being in relationship with people as we are, that you have felt that sentiment, that you have felt that I never want to live without you. Like, and being in love is amazing and all that comes with that. And so I think that that song is also just the perfect marriage of the music and the artists. I don't know. I just really
her life at the time too. You know, because like you know who she was singing to. Probably.
And who she didn't want to live without.
Right.
And it's like a lot of the album is chronicling relationships in a way that kind of like a Lemonade does. If you're looking for like somewhat of a contemporary example, you're looking at an album that explores the various nature of a relationship and various dimensions of relationships, whether it's the relationship with self, the relationship with a romantic partner, with your community in terms of like your people that are around you and that kind of build you up and support you, and so in this way, I don't know, it's just another really good song. I'm getting lost in my thoughts saying about how much I like that song, but to that end, I said I want to end on kind of a high note with my songs. So that's why I'm going to close out with Be Happy, which is also the album closer, which is also like after you've gone on this intensely emotional ride and you're, begging and pleading and longing for a lover and for, self-love and friendships and things like that, then you get to the space of where it's just like, all I really want is to be happy. Like, and to a degree, that's kind of what you've been saying each song, right, on the whole album. And so you just kind of put the exclamation point on that sentiment when you get to the end of the album and you have this other amazing sample. And let me Be Happy, Curtis Mayfield and Marvin Gaye, you know what I'm saying? So you are, again, just at a space where it's like, okay, I've been through all of this in my life, and now I'm at a point where I just really want to be happy. And, that starting off of, how can I love somebody else if I can't love myself enough to know when it's time to let go. Truer words have never been spoken. You know what I mean? And then to see Jasmine Sullivan pick that up, years later, and use that song for, was it going
circles?
Hold me down.
Mm-hmm.
Holding you down.
I think it's going in circles. Parentheses. Holding you down.
Thank you. And so I mean that's just all of us. I'll say all of us. Most people that I know or that I can conceive of don't live a life where they want to be miserable. Most people want to be happy, and that's despite the demons I'm battling internally or the challenges or obstacles I'm facing externally. Most people are trying to get to happy, which another callback to the Wait Make Sell episode. But you're trying to get to happy. You're trying to be in a place where you are satisfied in and of, your own self, to where that can be expressed to others and through your relationships with others and through your relationship with your craft and things like that. And so I think when you think about how much pain and how much she had to be going through to even be able to write an album like this, to get to the point at the end of the record where it's like that piece of optimism or that piece of like, this is where I'm trying to get to. Like, it's almost like the next album ain't gonna be like this, y'all. Like, you know what I mean? To a degree. So I really appreciate that song in and of itself, and then that song for what it means for the rest of the record and just for, a person's life journey.
So. Seriously. Yeah.
So I mean, with that being said, I guess I have like a question that I want to ask you. If you could, I just came up with this question on the spot. Right.
Okay.
So we talked a lot about Mary and Faith.
Yeah.
Right? And not a lot, but we talked enough about Mary and Faith.
It came up.
Okay. So let's do a callback to a question we got before. If you had to take a Mary song, and let's do it from the My Life album and then from Faith's first album.
So we're going to pull up that checklist.
Okay, I got you. I got you. I will do that right now. But if you had to take a song from one, we're gonna switch songs. We're gonna play song swap.
Okay, song swap.
Yes.
So give one of these songs to Faith and give one of Faith's songs to Mary. Huh. Ooh. I'm stuck between two. So hopefully you pick one and I pick the other. Okay. Well, maybe just pick one. Okay. And then hopefully that is one of my ones. And I'll just pick the other one. So do you have one for Faith that you would give to Mary?
I'm kind of stuck.
I think I know which one I want.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. I think I'm going to go with, I was going between two, but I think I'm going to go with You Used to Love Me. Like I think about that bridge. You can't deny what I'm feeling. It's real. Yeah.
I see that.
Through all the hurt and pain. Yeah. All of that. Exactly. Yeah.
At a certain point, that was probably a Mary J. Blige demo. I could easily see that.
Probably.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's a good one. So I was looking at. So I'm kind of stuck between two.
Okay.
I'm thinking about. Why is this hard? So it's either Give It To Me. Or Come Over.
Okay. That's interesting. My second one was Soon As I Get Home.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
She ain't got it.
She ain't got it. I've got the voice. I've got the voice.
Yeah.
No, it's something about the way Faith delivers Soon As I Get Home. I ain't touching that. That's hers.
No, fair. Fair.
I'm gonna let her hold that. But I would say, I'll go with Give It To Me.
Okay.
Because I can't give up on the way that you give it to me. Give it to me. Like that sounds like that could be a part of this track. Listen,
for sure.
Because it really kind of reminds me of a Be With You.
Okay.
Like off the My Life album.
Yeah.
So then, what song are we giving to Faith from Mary?
You can go first.
Ooh. So this is interesting, and I might do something.
Mary's
that...
turn. No,
I might do something that I wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
Because I do love the original version so much, as I just finished saying.
Yeah.
But I would like to hear Faith. She's on the backing vocals, but I would love to hear her do I Never Want to Live Without You.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I would be curious as to what that would sound like.
Let me see. It's so funny because in the same way, I think this is. In the same way that Soon As I Get Home was Faith, this is absolutely Mary's song. But I'm going to have to go with the title track, like My Life. I just want to hear what that would sound like. Not to say that, it's Mary's.
Okay.
But I would not mind a cover of that.
It.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that's fine. That's a reason why I really love when artists will do unexpected covers. Because
You know what I need? This is so random. I'm so sorry.
No, do it.
But I need a full cover of when Miguel was singing Kiss It Better. And I know you don't like that song. But I love it.
I liked it his way. I liked his
you liked it his way.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, like, his music, like when he was performing it in the video, his musicians didn't know it well enough for it to like sound really, really good. So like, if he was to give a studio cover of that, yeah,
with that same arrangement though, because like even though it was just something about the repeating or how he did the what are you willing to do? Like, okay, I see that. Okay, I see that. Sorry. Oh no, it's
okay. But so I think I had a thought.
Okay.
And this was just more so when I was listening to this album, because it was my first time listening to it, because, you know, I am younger than you are, because the Mary of, and this was kind of the same, I think maybe we had this conversation about Mariah before. Like maybe the Mariah that I was introduced to, the Mary that I was introduced to at a time that was like formative for me. It was just a different time.
Oh, for sure.
So right after I listened to this album, a song that I went back and listened to was Be Without You by Mary J. Blige. And it's just like, and I feel this way about like Beyonce a lot too. It's just like essentially like the Mary of the past was also the Mary of the, like, it's just there's something so beautiful about like seeing the eras and times and spaces, especially for artists that have longevity.
Oh, for sure.
And it's just like, because that song, I remember that song being such a moment, and even like today listening to it, I just feel so much. And even if like I am so single, but like listening to that song is just like, it makes you feel these things, and that, you know, like, and we were talking about just like what music makes you do or makes you feel and all this other stuff. But it was just really nice to kind of, I guess, juxtapose those, like listen to this album and then listen to a song that was maybe 20 years after well, no, I'm sorry, 10. Like 11, I'm sorry, 10.
Because it's hard to believe.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm thinking 2015, Lord. But you know, like, and then even beyond that, and even stretching beyond that, just like there's been so much good music from Mary since. And like you said, so like taking it back to this was probably the body of work that got her an invitation. You know, to Waiting to Excel. You know what we were talking about. You know, like this solidified her as like an it girl to have on that project.
I mean, right? Because when you even look at how, you know, how long she wrote this album, right? I mean, the album came out at the end of November in '94, and she was releasing singles into, you know, well into summer '95. And then you have the recording of the Waiting to Excel soundtrack taking place around the same time. So these things are happening in relation with each other.
Oh my God! Have you heard that new Mary? We have got to get her on the soundtrack.
And you think about the continuity though between My Life being the last single from the My Life album, and then the next time we hear some new music from Mary is, you know, Not Gonna Cry. So it's like, okay.
When did her and Casey break up?
They probably broke up probably during the creation of this album. I don't think they made it too far past.
But I mean, then again, Not Gonna Cry wasn't written about him, and she was not his secretary. But I mean, like, it's just the emotion that it evokes, I think, was very much emotion that she could pull from her own experiences.
Exactly. Man. But like, in thinking about, you know, again, just where Mary went from My Life, you know, as I was saying, like that Be Happy is kind of giving that gateway into this is where we're trying to get to. But you think about, you know, the Share My World album.
Yes. Oh my God.
You know.
Oh my God.
You know, which. So it's funny because around the time you were the age that I was around the time of Share My World coming out, that I was when My Life came out. If that tracks.
Sure. Oh yeah, I got you.
So it's interesting to think about, like, you know, your reaction when I bring up Share My World. And like,
but then also, strangely enough, my senior year of high school, I revisited Share My World. I think part of it had to do with my sister. Like, she was listening to it, and then it, like, reintroduced me to it. And I used to play just that song, just the title track, I remember...
Mary gives you a title track.
Yeah, I bought these, like, $10, like, Skull Candy headphones. And the first song that I listened to was Share My World, just so I could hear...
Wow.
Like, the way that it sounded in new headphones. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I remember that.
My God.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, so Mary definitely, you know, again, has continued to be a mainstay in music,
right.
Period. And I'm just excited to see where she continues to go.
Yeah.
It's funny because I had always been a Mary J. Blige fan. My mom had been... Did I tell the story about my mom and Mary J. Blige on the show before?
I don't think so.
About like, so when I had to be like 4 or 5, but it was on the Uptown tour.
Okay.
And so it was Mary J. Blige, Jodeci, Father MC, probably somebody else that isn't really out anymore. But I think like maybe Heavy D and them.
Okay.
Maybe. But so Uptown had this like tour, and this was like one of her like, you know, first on the road sort of things. And I remember my mom coming back from the concert. Her and my dad went, and she came and she was like, you know, there's this new girl that's on the scene. You know, she performed. Her name is Mary J.
Yeah.
You know, she was a great singer, but she had a state attitude.
Oh, no.
So, you know, that was like when Mary was cussing audiences out and, you know, wilding out in general. But I know, poor thing.
I know.
But it's just interesting though to think about her as being an artist that, you know, parents,
right?
You know, our parents were into, we're into. I mean, hell, depending on when I reproduce, you know, my kids will. I mean, hell, by being my kids, they're gonna be into Mary. So it's just interesting to track an artist like that, and that's where in a lot of ways I see Mary as like a second coming of it, like Aretha or someone who just has given us this music, and we've been able to follow on their journey and their highs and lows and their ups and downs. And I was repetitive in saying that, but you know, just giving us quality music for us to sink our teeth into for lifetimes.
Right. Yeah. And she like. Because now she's very much like, you know, like the auntie artist, you know, and all that other stuff. But it's hard for me to not think of her in that way, you know, but she started out a very young girl, like making this music. And she's just been able to, she's also aged very well.
She has. Made her look good.
Yeah, she looks really good, but then also just like, her womanhood has aged. You know, she is no longer cussing out people on her tours and things of that nature, you know. And, you know, like she's giving us the Mary Bops and the dances and stuff that we've been doing. And all that other stuff. Right, exactly. I think we're just here for Mary in a really, really great way.
At this point, she damn near has a residency at Essence Festival.
Yeah, right.
So, but, yeah, there's... In a lot of ways, Mary J. sings the
soundtrack of our lives.
Yeah, pretty much. Love her down, Mary J. This is a love letter to you, and one person in particular I want to dedicate this episode to is a really great friend of mine, frat brother, former roommate. Just my homie, Sean Harris. Okay. I got to dedicate this episode to him just because when I met him, I had never met a bigger Mary J. Blige fan of someone in my age group to the point where he, even though I always loved her music, he allowed me to really appreciate her in a different way.
Yeah,
so
that's great. That's great. Well, yeah. So, okay. Do you want to get into some of this or not? All right. Well, the last thing we have to do before we wrap this thing on up is get into Run That Back.
Yes.
So I have mine if we can.
Yes.
Great. So it's funny because in the time that we were away from you all, this was originally going to be my While You Were Sleeping. But, like, in that short time frame, I feel like there's just been an expansion exponentially of just, like, this artist's presence and appeal and visibility in a way. So, who I'm talking about is Megan Thee Stallion. I love her. She is a rapper, a young girl. She's from Houston. And she's actually, I want to say a college senior. She's in school.
Yeah, she is.
You know? Which, I mean, I'm going to give fuck you to someone really quickly. Like, this white boy was interviewing her. And he asked her, like, he was like, oh, yeah, because you're in school, right? And she was like, yeah, you know, whatever. And he was like, well, how do you think your fans would feel about that? And she was like, you know, I mean, I'm doing what I got to do, you know, like, it's like, and he kind of cuts her off and he's like, yeah, but, like, isn't, like, I mean, getting an education, like, in the hip-hop community isn't necessarily, like, something that a lot of people are doing, as if to insinuate, like, blacks don't appreciate education. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or, like, look down on education.
And that damage her credibility.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's just, like, we don't look at people who are educated as, like, positive role models. And I wanted her to drag him, but, you know, it's like she's new to the scene, and she might not have even caught it in the way that I caught it.
Right.
But it's just this thing of just, like, this racist belief that, like, we are not going to, first of all, as a community, we're going to support, period. You know, that's just what we do. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're getting a degree, right, exactly. But, like, if you're getting a degree, if you're going into a trade, if you're going to vocational school, if you want to be a rapper, if you want to be a baller, like, and you're making a come up, like, that is what we celebrate. You know, like, which is what somebody like him isn't going to understand. But I'm just like, why did you even choose this person to interview her? Whatever. Not the point. The point is...
and also to say that as if there aren't examples of hugely successful rappers that are college educated.
But this is the issue with rap making it to the mainstream. That you have these people... Like, y'all don't know what the fuck y'all are talking about. And it's so frustrating. Yes. Like, these people that have access to these artists and are interviewing these artists and talking to these people, and it's just like... Y'all really don't know. Like, y'all just really don't know, and you act like you do, or you think that you do, or because you turn up to parties or, you know, go to these festivals and listen to this stuff, you think that you're plugged in, but you're really not.
Exactly.
But, so, with Megan, though, what I really, really love about her is, one, she's super talented. So, the first thing that I heard from her was a freestyle that she did, I think for Beats Radio or something like that. Okay. And now it's on Apple Music, so I can send you the link to that. But, like, the first thing that I ever heard her do was freestyle, and I was like, okay, like, that one, like, shout out to that, you know, for like a female MC, like, really rapping. And then also, so she's honestly, like, talent wise, up there, I would say. And what makes her different is, like, maybe perhaps the two other people that we would consider up there are both from New York. So it's like, to have this, like, down south, like, she has this draw. I was explaining to one of my friends, it kind of reminds me of, like, an 8-Ball or, like, a Paul Wall, or, like, she has this drawl that I really, really like, and just feels familiar, I think, because of just my upbringing.
For sure.
But I love it, and it's different. And again, just like the diversity, and like, she's not a Saweetie, she's not a City, you know, like City Girls is like a Miami sound, right? It's just like, I love the fact that, like, so many different women are getting a voice in this hip hop game. I agree. And then beyond that, she's good. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's just good, and she's kind of like unapologetic about it. And I really enjoy that. And then just so. The two songs that I'm going to point out, Big Ol' Freak is one, because that...
Love it.
Relatable. And, Freak Nasty, which, whatever. Sure.
That's on brand.
But what I really love about just, like, freedom in sexuality with women is just that, like, she's not like a petite girl.
Right.
And she's not afraid to show her body. She's also a girl that is college educated and not afraid to get on the stage and talk about some really, like, nasty shit, right? So it's just, like, breaking down these ideas of what a woman should be, breaking down these ideas of, like, how you should act and all that other stuff.
Right.
Like, I just really love someone who is, like, unapologetic about that, but then also just, like, good at what they do, because it makes you undeniable in a way. It's just like, okay, so maybe what, she shouldn't twerk in, like, Twitter or IG videos, like, what why?
But to any college party, exactly, what are people doing?
Exactly.
Twerking.
Exactly. And beyond that, like, she's a good ass rapper.
Right.
So it's just like she can twerk and give you 16 bars, you know what I'm saying? Like, and, you know, just kind of rip you apart. So it's just like, yeah, I really, really appreciate that she's a fun rapper. She's like a talented rapper. And she's just great. Just great. Love her.
Absolutely.
Love her. So, get into her. As I have.
I love it. I mean, I think that the issue is that a lot of times, although we experience it on a daily basis and understand that we are not one-dimensional people, we, for some reason, in the public sphere, encourage an intentional siloing or, you know, cutting off of certain parts of ourselves to present our most presentable self to the public. And, you know, that doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work. It's not helpful. It's not productive. And it really leads to a form of insanity or, you know, to a depressed mental state.
Exactly.
So that's interesting how he tried to carry that. So I have been struggling boots with my Run That Back. I've been listening to a lot.
Okay.
But I've also been I've been listening to a lot of, like, the same people, and some of them which I've shared before on the show, in, you know, Run That Back segments. So I am, you know what?
What?
I'm going to do a Mary Run That Back.
Okay, sure.
And so if I had to pick a Mary song that has just been on my mind, on my heart, she has a song off The Breakthrough called Good Woman Down.
Yeah.
And she's a Melissa Morgan sample in that song. So she was still sampling into the 2000s. Yeah. But actually I thought of two Mary songs. Okay. Sorry, this is making me laugh. No. There's something happening that you all won't know, but it's just hilarious. Thank you, Calvin, for working through it. But so I'm gonna pull, Good Woman Down from off the Breakthrough album. Yeah. Really great song. And another very, like, that song is especially poignant because if you listen to My Life and then you go listen to that song, it's pretty much like it's a callback to that life. Yeah. And so definitely check that out. Good Woman Down, Mary J. Blige off the Breakthrough. Yeah. And then I want you to also listen to another one of my favorite Mary songs off of one of her, like, not as successful albums, but it's the last track on the Love and Life album. Okay. And it's called Ultimate Relationship AM. Okay. And it's a love song to God. Oh, and it's great. One of my favorite Mary songs ever. It's just very stripped down. It's very pure, very genuine, very it's just it's a song that I can, with my level of spirituality and, you know, relationship with the Creator, it was a song that I latched on to at 16 when the album came out in 2003, and it's one that I can still latch on to this day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to this day being twice as old. So, so yeah, those are my 2 run that backs.
Okay. Well.
Dun, dun, dun.
No, I think we're pretty much done, right?
Yes. Yeah, this has been a merry episode.
Yeah. yeah, no, it definitely has. But this is great. I'm excited to get back into some more of the albums that we have for you all coming up.
Oh, yes.
In the meantime, feel free to reach out to us, interact with us on our social media, send us an email, write us a note at gmail.com. Your note will be read or possibly on the show. So yeah, any other thoughts before we wrap up?
No, this has been great.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you all on social media and next week.
Absolutely. We will catch you all next time. See ya.